What's good, fam? Y'all already know the vibes. We back at it again. Today is day number 2. Um, Yesterday we managed to basically get everything topside disassembled. Pulled out the radiator, top mount intercooler, charge pipe, cold air intake, um, and we cleaned the intake valves on the passenger side of the engine, as well as replaced the spark plugs on that side. I did start cleaning off the driver's side, so I have to finish that. Everything went fairly smoothly with the exception of my media blaster clogging up a little bit on me. I'm not sure if it was because of humidity or what really was the case, but the feed to the wand kept clogging up towards the end, and it was giving me a little bit of trouble and was causing things to move a lot slower than they should have. But all the intake valves are mostly clean. I do want to touch these up on the driver's side a little bit more because there is just a bit around where the valve seat is, and I want to make sure I clean that up really nice. So I am going to finish that today, and then we will get underneath the car and get to the really fun stuff, the sexy stuff, guys, the exciting stuff. We will pull down the factory exhaust manifold turbo. I do have to disconnect the High Flow Cat from my Tomei test pipe. So I don't, most down pipes or J pipes for these cars will replace the primary cat and the secondary cat. So there's two pieces. Right off the turbo, you have the primary cat, and after the second O2 sensor, then you have a secondary cat and a resonator. So they come apart in two pieces. Most aftermarket J pipes replace both of that together. Now, after I did the cat back exhaust, I opted not to do that because I didn't have the money to retune for a downpipe. So what I did was I bought the Tomei X-Preme titanium test pipe, which deleted the secondary cat and the resonator behind it. So since I did that, when I chose a high flow cat, I went with HKS because HKS just replaces the primary. It does not get rid of the secondary. Everything else on the market, like ETS or all the more popular EPA approved cats, they're replace both sections at once. And because I already have the Tomei test pipe, I didn't want to waste money getting rid of that. So I went with the HKS High Flow Cat, which just replaces the primary since I already have the secondary and the resonator deleted. So I have to disconnect that the factory cat from the Tomei test pipe, and then I can pull down the exhaust manifold with the turbo, everything on it, and then we can put in the Fujitsubo Equal Length Headers. We can install the Boost Lab 54X turbo, as well as the HKS High Flow Cat. We also have the Overtake big turbo inlet and a Grimspeed 3-port electronic boost control solenoid. So all of that stuff will get done from the bottom. That's the real exciting stuff. Once that goes in, I'll do the Overtake clutch delay delete. I want to do that before the intake manifold goes back on. And once all that stuff is done, then we can work on the water meth and the fuel pump. All right, fam. So while I wait for a little bit of time to go by, so I'm not making too much noise with the compressor really early in the morning, disturbing the neighborhood, pissing off the neighbors, I went ahead and sprayed some parts cleaner inside those ports to let the intake valve soak a little bit more. While I do that, while they soak and I let the time pass before I run the compressor, I'm going to go ahead and replace the plugs on this side of the engine, since I did the ones on the passenger side while cleaning those valves yesterday. So I went ahead and I loosened up the bolts, 10 millimeter bolts for the ignition coils. Went ahead and popped out the one closest to the front of the engine, closest to me. You got a little bit more space with this. Use a 14 mil socket. Better to use a spark plug socket because it's got that little rubber grommet insulator thing in there so you don't break a spark plug. You can do it with a regular 14 mil deep socket, but just be careful. So I get the socket and the extension on there first because you don't have the space to get it all on while they're on the ratchet already. Okay, got that pulled out, and honestly, for having these plugs got 40,000 on them, I'm at 70K and I did them last at 30,000. These things look pretty good actually. I'm not sure if it'll focus. It's alright. But they look good. They got a nice healthy color, nice tan, slightly brownish, but a nice tan color, which is right where you want them to be. Not too dirty, not running too lean. So we know the engine is running good. Alright guys, I got a feeler gauge. These things, I'm pretty sure were gapped for 20 thousandths of an inch, or 0.020. And honestly, yeah, that gap is really good still. I'm going to save these plugs. I did the same with the plugs from yesterday because they're about the same thing. But we're doing the work. We got everything apart. We're putting new plugs in. And I'm going to gap them a little differently. These out the box come gapped to, like I said, 20 thousandths of an inch, or 0.020. I'm going to be gapping about 0.025. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the new plug, get this gap properly, and then we'll do the next one. Alright, so I went ahead and opened up the gap on this thing, on the spark plug, sorry, and we came up just a little bit far, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and put in this tool right here. You get this, you can probably get the same exact tool on Amazon for probably about like $10–11. We just need to close it up a hair. Almost there, guys. Almost there. Take your time. Tighten down a little bit at a time. You don't want to have to go back and forth opening and closing, bending on this electrode. Yeah, we're right there. Literally about a hair away. Alright guys, we got it perfect. Got to get it right at the right angle or else it gets caught, which is exactly what we want. We want a nice snug fit. We want a true accurate reading on this, and that is money. Look, I can't get it out. It's caught. Good. Alright guys, I had to go step and get my torque wrench and dial it in. Yeah, 12.9 is what I got on the internet for the torque specs on this. That's nice and snug. We'll go ahead, pop this ignition coil back in, and then I'll pop that 10mm bolt in it, and then we'll work on removing the last spark plug to be replaced. Let me grab my bolt and my 10mm and get this started by hand. Alright fam, take a look inside. These are intake valves. You can still see a couple little bits of walnut shell in there, but that's okay. Okay guys, I was trying to adjust lighting so you could get a better view inside. See inside the valves. Alright, it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of hard to get a good angle with good lighting, but you can see inside and you can see the valves are nice and clean. They honestly weren't that bad. So after a little bit of struggling and fighting with the media blaster again, clearing out the lines, it was, I don't know, just clogging. Not sure why exactly I was having that problem with the media, but it was clogging up in the line. This side is still covered up. See if I can get inside and show you. Yeah, lighting's not ideal, so you guys can't see too well, sorry. Alright fam, I'm not too sure what happened here, but I lost audio connection with my mic, so we're going voiceover for a minute. So here I am installing the Overtake clutch delay delete valve. Once you got your top mount intercooler out the way, it's a pretty simple install. You're just going to need a 24mm socket or wrench or an adjustable wrench to be able to get the factory delay valve out. Once you get the factory delay valve out, you're going to want to use a pick or something pretty small to make sure you get the internal components out. Alright guys, sorry about that. I had to go ahead and step off camera and grab a pick so that we could go ahead and get the rest of this valve out. There's a few pieces here and you want to make sure you get it all out. Alright guys, there's a few pieces. You have the O-ring that should be on the valve. You have a little metal piece, a little plastic piece, and a spring. Alright, that's it. Old one is out. Really simple, really easy. And then we'll just go ahead and thread this new one in. Get it started by hand. Hand tight. We'll just go ahead now and snug it up with our ratchet. Don't want to go crazy with it. I'm sure there's a torque spec for it. I don't know what it is, but generally just nice and snug will do it. You don't want to pull out the threads and damage your piece, and that's it. It's in there. Only thing I have to do now is bleed the clutch. Alright fam, so we are getting underneath the car right now. I am gonna disconnect the test pipe from the primary cat. I started spraying this stuff up with PB Blaster yesterday to hopefully start penetrating so this stuff won't be impossible to remove today. So hopefully this comes off easy. That one broke free. Now this stuff was installed can't remember, a year or two ago maybe. So this test pipe has been on here for at least a little while. Both of those are broken free. Gotta grab a ratchet and I can finish taking this off by hand. All right, now that I got some tools, we'll go ahead and get this off. One bolt off. Now, I do recommend whenever you're dealing with this stuff, always have new hardware, because you never know how these things are gonna go. These parts are exposed to the elements and constantly being heat cycled, getting really hot, cooling down, getting really hot and cooling down. So hardware like this does fail, and you very often end up having to cut stuff like this off because it gets so rusty and crusty. So the test pipe is free from the primary cat. However, it will not drop down right now. It doesn't have enough wiggle room for me to pull it back. So we are gonna work on the Turbo-2 downpipe or J-pipe bolts next. Let's cross our fingers. As my boy Jason would say, sign it across if you're into that kind of shit. Maybe say a little prayer, because these typically break balls. And this breaker bar surely helps. That one broke free, pretty simple. Moving on to the next one I can access here. Yep, that one broke free. Okay, now that those are broken free, I can... Alright guys, something I didn't do before that I'm gonna do now. Let's give you guys a show. Underneath, you see I took off these two nuts first, but this is still attached, so I can't pull it back. No space for it to drop down. So I broke this one and this one free. Gotta break this one free. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the connectors for the O2 sensors and unclip that stuff and get that out the way so it's not attached and I'm not gonna get hung up on anything. Guys, I just want to zoom back in and show you I ended up popping out this front O2 sensor after I disconnected the clip and also removed this little cable stay from the heat shield where it was mounted. I unclipped the rear O2 sensor. I am about to loosen up this ground strap right here so that we can take this down. All right guys, I just wanted to cut back in and show you. All right, I disconnected the rear and front O2 sensors. For the front one, there was a cable stay holding it to the heat shield right there, so I had to pop that out. And then I removed the front O2 sensor as it blocks access to that nut right there, so I got to get that off. Next, these bottom two have already been broken free. This one I can't access yet. Well, I haven't tried to yet, so yeah, let me go ahead and break this one free. Then there's just one more, and we should be able to drop this right down. All right, guys, so not sure how well you can see, but I've got to break this one free. Let me get the socket on first. Save myself some effort. All right, look like the stud. So all the studs came out on this. All the studs pulled out, which is fine, doesn't really matter. I got all new hardware for this anyways, and none of this is going back in. Yeah, because we got all new hardware and all new parts. All right, guys, so check this out. I had to use two 6-inch extensions with the breaker bar, and I broke it free. So now I'm gonna get the Milwaukee in here to do the rest of the work for me. All right, guys. Sorry. This is not the easiest to do while trying to simultaneously record. Oof. All right, guys, sorry about that. Again, bear with me. It is loose. It is no longer connected. Ground traps are loose. O2 sensors are disconnected. But check it out, guys. Primary cat is out of the way. Little bracket that went over the top. Got the old studs. And now we can see our turbo. Got a little bit better view. The headers. There's 3 bolts on each side we got to drop down. Before I get to that part, I'm going to take off everything on the intake side. On the cold side, I'll move around and take off the inlet. All right, fam. So we are underneath. I am going to disconnect this stuff on the cold side. I do have some coolant lines I see right here that have to be disconnected. I'm going to take off the inlet, disconnect the boost control solenoid, and the lines that come to the inlet. So turbo is no longer attached to anything. We want to get this bucket out from underneath so we can drop it down. Turbo and exhaust manifold are down, guys. We fucking did it. We fucking did it. Check it out, guys. Look, intake manifold, intake, charge pipe, inlet, old hoses, lower intake manifold pieces, and those little plates that go inside the head, TGVs that are deleted, EGR that is deleted, factory headers, stock turbo. Look at this little buddy right here. Turbo is actually in really good shape. I don't feel any play. Yeah, 70,000 miles, good stuff. I'm gonna save all this stuff. I don't know, maybe I'll just hold on to it for years and never do anything with it. Maybe I'll sell it and eventually use the money for more mods for Midnight in the future. I don't know. Anyone has any interest in this stock stuff? Someone that needs to restore a project they got? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know. Maybe I'm willing to part ways with it. Maybe I'll just hold on to it forever. Who knows? All right, I'm going to take the heat shield off of the turbo. Not sure if I'm going to reuse that. I'm going to reuse these lines. So I'm going to take that off. And then I'm going to, after I take off the heat shield, unbolt the sump from the turbo. And I think I'll leave the turbo and manifold all in one piece like that. Yeah. All right, guys.